welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into something ancient, but honestly, surprisingly relevant. We're tackling the timeless wisdom of the Vedas, our mission. To get past the usual cliches, pull out some facts that might genuinely surprise you, and maybe find a fresh perspective. We're using excerpts from Unveiling the Timeless Wisdom of the Vedas. Some of these ideas, well, they're more radical than you might think. Okay, let's unpack this.
It really is fascinating, isn't it? How much profound stuff gets misunderstood or watered down over time. These texts, they're often deeper and honestly way more universal than people generally assume. So yeah, let's peel back some layers today, see what's really there.
Okay, universality. Let's start with something really foundational, something that might just flip the script for you listening. The Vedic idea of God. Because, wow, if there's one place where popular ideas clash with the texts, it seems to be right here. Our source material points to something pretty startling. The Vedas explicitly state one God. One. Singular, unique. That's not just a minor detail, is it? It changes everything. No quiet nod to polytheism here at all.
Exactly. And this one God isn't, some old man on a chair up in the sky. The text makes it clear ideas like a fourth or seventh heaven are just irrelevant. It even mentions the earth being round way back then. Instead, God is described as like the ultimate source, the power behind all living beings, making sure everything interacts with the material world through these fixed, unchanging rules.
Unchanging rules. Okay, so if this Vedic God only works through these constant laws, never breaks them, no miracles like we usually think of him, what does that actually mean for things like divine help or even our own choices? Because that sounds really different from a lot of later religions.
It's a huge difference. It means this God doesn't get angry, doesn't need sleep, doesn't have, armies of angels or special prophets, doesn't hand out special favors outside these universal laws. It's described as omnipresent inside us, outside us, unchanging, immortal, unborn, impersonal even, and just a consistent rule keeper. Understanding that is so important because, other religions use similar words like God, but the philosophy underneath can be totally different, leads to a lot of confusion.
Right, that makes sense. So with that idea of one rule-following God, it makes you wonder about the whole 33 deities thing. You hear 33 Koti Devata, and lots of people jump to 33 core gods, which sounds like a flat-out contradiction. But again, the source gives us a really important language check here.
Yeah, this is where knowing a bit of the Sanskrit helps immensely. That word Koti, it doesn't mean crore, as in 10 million. Not in this context, it actually means type or class. And Devata itself is interesting. The root word divu means anything that benefits us. Yeah. And its root dayan means to give. Divu also implies things like winning, shining, knowing, beneficial actions or forces. So a Devata is definitely not the same as the one supreme God. It's a beneficial thing or force.
Okay, type, not crore. That clears up a lot. So if Devata means these beneficial things all coming from the one God, what are these 33 specific types mentioned in text, like the Shanapatha Brahmana? That's a commentary, right?
It is. And it lays them out pretty logically, really. It's about the forces and elements that sustain us. You've got the 8 basis fundamental things like earth, water, fire, air, sky, moon, sun, stars, or maybe the life forces within us. Then there's the soul itself. The 12 adityas, those represent the months or the sun's cycle through the year. 1 electric or electromagnetic force, quite specific. And finally, 1 yajna, which here means this ongoing, high-level, selfless action humans do for everyone's benefit. These are all beneficial forces or concepts, you see, all provided by the one God.
Wow. That completely reframes worship then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because if Devatas are these kinds of things, then worshiping them like separate gods or needing specific rituals or idols, it doesn't seem to fit anymore.
It doesn't. And the Vedas, well, they don't lay out specific rituals or steps or idols for worship. Not at all, actually. They strongly condemn trying to limit God to an idol. They say it's just not true, and it's not respectful to the divine, which is everywhere.
So if it's not rituals and idols, what is Vedic worship then? What are you actually supposed to do?
It's described more like a yogic path, focused on mind control and improving your skills. The basic idea is, by boosting your physical, mental, and spiritual health through these inner practices, you become better equipped to actually do good things, to make effective efforts out in the world. It's personal growth for the sake of contributing more, essentially.
And the prayers themselves sound different too, based on this. Less about asking for favors, more about enlightenment and service. Our sources mention prayers like asking to be led from ignorance to knowledge, pledging to stick to the path of truth, always, trying to align your intellect with infinite wisdom, and the Gayatri Mantra that sounds like focusing all your energy on the source of power and knowledge for everyone.
Exactly. And don't forget the Shuddhi Mantra. That's basically a powerful ethical guide. It's like a pledge, to clear your mind of negativity, hate, helplessness, lust, greed. To live in a way that helps society with zero discrimination doesn't matter about faith, money, power, education. Dedicating your life to selfless, honest service with a pure heart. And even humbly apologizing for past bad intentions. It's all about cleaning up your inner world to benefit the outer world.
That sounds less like religion in the typical sense and more like, well, a universal code for living a good life. Which leads perfectly into this idea of universal brotherhood. The source makes a really striking comparison here. It says, look, many modern religions have ended up dividing people, but the Vedas, they explicitly bring everyone together under one God. They really push for rising above all the petty distinctions and seeing all of humanity as one single family.
Right, that's Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Literally, humanity is my own family. It's a core concept. And the source material argues pretty strongly that no other scripture states this kind of universal humanism so clearly, so unequivocally. It even suggests that if the world actually embraced this, we could potentially get rid of conflict, crime, wars pretty quickly. It's a huge vision.
That is a huge vision, a bold claim for global harmony. Now, another area that seems full of misunderstandings is the Vedic view on life itself and what yajna really means. You hear these claims about, say, beef eating or animal sacrifice in Vedic yajnas. What do the texts actually say?
The texts are incredibly clear on this, actually. They emphasize respect for all life forms. They are totally against killing for selfish reasons. Those claims about beef or animal sacrifice. The source calls them out directly as deceptions spread by half-educated, self-proclaimed scholars. The Vedic ideal is nonviolence. It prohibits killing animals for rituals or even for food. It calls for compassion for everything alive.
Okay, so if there's no animal sacrifice, it completely changes what yajna is. We usually picture the fire ritual,
right?
But the source gives it a much bigger meaning.
Much bigger, yes. Yajna fundamentally has three main meanings in the Vedas. One is reverence for God and for good people. Two is good company, associating with virtuous people. And three is charitable deeds, actions that benefit everyone. So it's a really broad ethical concept. That fire ritual you mentioned, the Agnihotra, that's described as a regular practice, yeah, but its purpose is purifying the environment and the mind. It has therapeutic, spiritual benefits, absolutely zero connection to animal sacrifice.
And that clarification applies to those specific yajnas with names that sound like sacrifice too, right? Like Gomeda or Ashwamedha.
Exactly. People hear go and think cow, or Ashwa and think horse. But it's symbolic. Gomeda Yajna is about keeping the earth clean. Go can also mean earth, not cow sacrifice. Ashwamedha Yajna is about the glory and prosperity of the nation or state, not horse sacrifice. And Narmeda Yajna, that refers to the proper, respectful cremation of a human body according to Vedic ways. Definitely not human sacrifice. The source is emphatic. Don't take any yajna in that literal sacrificial sense. It's about improving society and the environment.
That's a massive reinterpretation,
Yeah.
turning potential horror into, well, ethical and ecological principles,
Yeah.
which seems to connect directly to another point, nature conservation.
Yes, absolutely. The Vedas come across as incredibly early advocates for what we'd now call green principles, or the save environment idea. They really urge living in harmony with nature, giving back as much as we take. They basically frame protecting the environment as one of our highest duties, especially since, just by existing, humans do impact the world.
So we're talking about ancient texts with a message very close to modern environmentalism. That's pretty amazing. And wrapping up, let's touch on accessibility and equality. Are these texts just for a select few or a specific group? What's the real deal?
The source describes them as totally universal, not tied to any one caste, religion, community, or country. They're presented as relevant everywhere, timeless, from an era before we even had categories like Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew, communist.
That's quite a statement that they could form the basis of a truly universal religion, one that unites people instead of dividing them, cutting through later human-made divisions. The source even claims that every problem, past, present, or future, has a solution within Vedic knowledge. That's incredibly ambitious. How can ancient texts solve future problems?
Well, the idea isn't about specific tech fixes, obviously. It's that the core principles, the ethics, the understanding of universal laws, the focus on inner development and societal harmony are timeless. They provide a fundamental wisdom, a way of approaching problems that's applicable no matter the era or the specific challenge. That's the claim, anyway.
Okay. And on equality, what about that common accusation that the Vedas stopped certain groups like Shudras from studying them?
Another major point of misunderstanding, according to our source, it emphasizes that everyone, regardless of birth circumstances, has the right to study the Vedas. And crucially, Shudra in the Vedas isn't a birth-based caste, it defines someone who is uneducated. So yes, someone without education wouldn't just pick up the Vedas and understand them, but the path is open. Anyone can get educated, learn the Vedas, and then they're no longer considered a Shudra in that sense. Merit is the key. Anyone from any background can study and even teach the Vedas if they have the ability and knowledge. The source insists the Vedas completely reject birth-based discrimination.
Right. So after all this, what does it really boil down to for us listening now? We've gone through this deep monotheism, the real meaning of deities and worship, this radical call for seeing humanity as one family. Their focus on protecting nature and this strong emphasis on knowledge, character, equality, not birth or ritual.
Well, if you try to connect it all to the bigger picture today, it really does suggest something powerful. These ancient principles, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, humanity is one family, that duty to protect nature, they seem to offer genuinely deep insights, maybe even potential paths forward for our modern problems, things like conflict, environmental crises, social division. So the provocative thought to maybe leave everyone with is this. Could it be that the answers to some of our biggest future challenges are actually waiting for us in this ancient wisdom if we're willing to look at it again, maybe with fresh eyes?
A lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.